Hey everybody, it's Taylor Bryant. I'm an automotive instructor here at Augusta Technical College in Augusta, Georgia. And today we are going to talk about vacuum bleeding. Vacuum bleeding the cooling system is a very important step to any type of cooling system repair, whether it be water pump replacement, radiator replacement, hose replacement, anything like that. And there's a lot of benefits to vacuum bleeding. The number one benefit being that when we apply a vacuum to the coolant system and fill it up with coolant, it's going to put coolant into any void or any empty space that we have in the cooling system. So as with this car here is a Volkswagen Passat. It's got the 1.8 turbo AWM engine in it, and it has a very large cooling system for the size of the engine. So the biggest problem with this is the heater core is above where we fill the coolant at. So it's a little bit higher than our fill point for our coolant. So when we apply a vacuum to the system, what that's going to do is it's going to force coolant into the system because there's not going to be any air in the system. So we remove all the air from the system and we replace it with coolant. And this is not a hard thing to do as long as you have the proper tool. So we're going to go over the tool. I'm going to show you how to use the tool, and we're going to do a bleed on this system. Okay, so here's the kit that we're going to use today. This is a kit by Snap-on. However, there are many other people that make these vacuum bleeder kits. This just happens to be the one that I have. The part number on this is RAD Kit Plus A, and it has all the instructions there, but I'm just going to run through and kind of tell you how to use this. You have a couple of different rubber adapters here, and those will be used for modifying the tool to fit the car that you're dealing with. I also have sometimes you have to clamp off the overflow tank if your vehicle has an overflow tank. This one actually doesn't. The overflow tank is where the radiator cap is, so we're not going to need that for this. The tool itself, the main body of the tool here, you have a gauge, and this gauge is, you have red and green, so you want to run this down till it gets to the green. If you're using this gauge and the vacuum is not going down to the green, it most likely means that you have a leak in your cooling system somewhere. Just like when we vacuum down a refrigeration system or an air conditioning system, if the vacuum doesn't go down enough, that means you may be pulling in air from somewhere. And then this pipe right here is our discharge pipe and our button that we use to actually activate the vacuum. So you are also going to need another component to this, a good supply of compressed air. Pretty good compressor is going to be needed to use this tool. So the air goes through here, and it will apply a vacuum right here to this nozzle, which goes into the tool right here, and it applies what we call a Venturi effect. The airflow past a certain valve in there will apply a vacuum out through this hole here, and will cause the cooling system to come under vacuum. So that's going to get all the air out. That's going to get any excess coolant out that we have, and it's going to be our base for applying vacuum to our coolant reservoir, whatever we're using, 5-gallon bucket or whatever, to put coolant back in the car. Okay, so let's get this thing hooked up. All right, here's our coolant tank here, and so this is where we're going to apply the vacuum right here to this coolant tank. This car doesn't have a radiator cap, and this is the only access point we have to either fill our coolant or apply any pressure device if we're overheating. So this is going to be where we hook our device at. So the tool comes with a couple of different adapters here. The one, let's see, that one's too big. As you can see, it won't fit down in the hole properly. This is the one that we need right here. So this is going to fit down in here. It's okay if it's a little loose, because this tool will tighten up just like a rubber freeze plug, and it'll seal that off, and it'll allow us to get our vacuum to our system. So try to do this one-handed here. Okay, I've got this undone, and so now we're going to put this in the middle here. May need to lubricate it a little bit. Squeeze it in there good. Again, this needs to be airtight, so after we get that done, we're going to screw this down, and this will lock it and make sure that it's tight. It's hard to do this with one hand, so hang on. Okay, here's the setup right here. As you can see, this is it's good and tight. After we tightened it up, you shouldn't be able to pull this out with your hands. You have a valve right here. This valve should actually be closed until we're filling the system. The tool clicks on here and it goes to shop air, which of course goes up to the ceiling. And then this is your discharge hose right here. So if you have any coolant still in the vehicle, you're going to want to put this somewhere to catch the coolant. But for the most part, whenever I do these, I start with a dry system. I just go ahead and drain the coolant out manually instead of sucking it out this way. Normally I'm in there doing a repair of some sort that's going to require that anyway, so I go ahead and just drain the system. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put a vacuum on the system. Use this little button right here to press. And as you see, as I press the button, the gauge will actually drop, and that will show that your system is holding vacuum. The gauge will drop down towards 30, but if it's standing still like this, that means your system's pretty airtight, okay? But we're going to run this down a little bit more. And that's about as good as it gets with this tool. I have seen some that will go a little bit lower. But this one right here, and of course the system's going to hold that pressure if it's not leaking. And you'll see, what you want to start seeing is your hoses will actually start sucking shut. And as they suck shut, that means there's no air in the system whatsoever. So you just want to make sure that your hoses are vacuumed down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put the coolant in the car. And if you want to, you can go ahead and pull the air off of this. I'm not going to do that right now. So this is our intake hose. And it's very important that you have this valve shut. Our intake hose, now I've got my pink lemonade mix, 1 gallon coolant, 1 gallon of water. You can use a 5-gallon bucket if you don't have a container like this, but the intake hose will have a little screen on it, and that just keeps all the junk out of the new coolant going into your car. The most important thing about this is making sure that this is underneath the coolant at all times. If you pull this out when it's vacuum filling, all you're doing is filling the system back with more air. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put this in the coolant, make sure it's all the way at the bottom, and then all we have to do is just throw this switch. And you'll see the coolant will come up through the hose. It'll start filling this, and you'll start seeing your hoses. Your hoses will start filling up from the inside with coolant. It's hard to get the angle because I'm trying to hold this under the coolant flow. As you'll see, this whole thing right here is filling up the cooling system. And this hose will start expanding with coolant. How cool is that? These tools aren't that expensive. If you do this type of work all the time, it's really a good investment. You'll start seeing this gauge is going to drop back down to a 0 point or a point like this. This pretty much just means that the system is full. And our hose right here is now, it's expanded back, but every bit of this system has coolant in it now. So really good tool. I recommend it, especially if you're doing any Euro work or any work where you have a lot of cooling system and a little bit of space. This really seems to help out a lot. It's going to help your comeback rate. It's also going to help you get this done quicker. And of course, in our business, time is money. Okay, we've had the car at idle for about 15-20 minutes, and I actually went on a quick test drive just to make sure the timing belt install and everything went well. No problems with that. So we see the temperatures right at 190 degrees. That's perfect operating temperature. You can confirm this with a scan tool as well. The heat is working great. It's coming out of the vents nicely, so this is a success. And I hope that you learned something from this, and if you have any questions, just let me know. But again, my name's Taylor Bryant. I'm an instructor of automotive technology at Augusta Technical College, and good luck with your repair.